Alright. Hey. It's Vicious Dave again. And, this is gonna be a response to Emeek. Or, Eric. Or, otherwise known as Apple Soldier. Me and Eric have always been on the same side of Apple. So, this is no argument at all. You might have noticed I got a haircut from last time you saw me on my last video. But that's not the point. But thanks if you noticed. You know, this whole thing about setting macOS 10 free, I just have to put my 2 cents in there. It's basically a lot of bullcrap that you PC loving cheap hardware assholes who just say, well, I can buy cheaper hardware than what Apple sells for their Mac computers, and it's so much cheaper. Look I can buy what I get in a Mac for only like a fraction of the price. It's only like $500 or $600 here versus the Mac, which is like $1,000 frickin' dollars. I mean, and you guys whine about it and stuff. Let me tell you something about Apple. Apple's not going to set macOS 10 free. You know why it's not? Because if macOS 10 was set free to run on any PC OEM, I guarantee you, Apple would not make hardware sales anymore. Because everyone else would be cheaper, and the way the economy is now, everyone has a cheap ass fucking state of mind. Cheap, 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 cheap. Okay? Now me, I don't even make that much money myself, and I'm not that cheap. I'm not that cheap that I'm gonna go out and buy some piece of crap PC OEM that's really cheap. It's only $600. Yeah, I get for like $800 you can get 4 cores and 6 gigabytes of RAM and a terabyte hard drive and with a 20-inch screen and everything, you know. But it's like, I'm not that cheap. It's like, yes, I make very low income, but I still manage to pay for Apple products. So why can't you guys? Huh? Okay. So that brings me back to my point that Apple would not make any hardware sales if they let macOS 10 go free to other OEMs like HP and Sony and Compaq and Toshiba and everyone else. And here's why. macOS 10 is an operating system. That is software. The software sells the hardware. Okay? It's integrated. And the thing is, if you... I mean, it's very simple. If you do not... How simple do I have to put this for you wintards? Do I have to use that word again? Wintards? Do I have to use that problematic, idiotic word again? That you guys can claim is idiotic, but I don't, because wintard basically just means you're an idiot. And all you believe is Windows, DirectX, DirectX. That bullshit. Proprietary. You don't even know what proprietary means. You know what proprietary means? It means it's locked. It's locked on fucking Windows. DirectX is locked on fucking Windows. That's why it sucks. Okay, getting back to the point. Let's see. Yes. So as you can see, Apple would plummet to the ground and lose all of its market share if they let macOS 10 go free. Now, you got to look at this from a business standpoint. Don't look at this as a consumer. Don't look at this as a consumer at all. If you're looking at this from a consumer standpoint for cheaper PCs, then get the fuck out of here. Because you don't know shit. You got to look at it from a business perspective. Now, if you were Apple, most of your sales come from hardware. They do not come from software. Your largest sales always come from hardware, because those are the most expensive items that you sell. Why does it sell? Well, those expensive hardware pieces sell because of the software. If there was no software, then, I mean, if Apple didn't have its own operating system, and let's just say they sold Windows on it, would people buy Apple? No. They wouldn't buy it, because it'd be overpriced. People would complain all the time. They'd be, oh, it's overpriced, it just runs Windows. But you see now that the Mac computer is the selling point of Apple. With the software being set free to all the OEMs, Apple's market share of money value and overall sales would drop to the ground. They'd be flat out loss of millions of dollars if they set macOS 10 free. Do you understand that? Millions of dollars just gone if they set macOS 10 free. If they set their operating system free to all the other OEMs. And that's what you guys don't get. You got to look at this from a business perspective, not a consumer perspective. A consumer perspective says, well, it costs too much. I mean, I can just buy a Windows box and it's cheaper, but I don't get all the cool freaking software that I want. It's like, well, that's too bad. Because if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, Apple. Okay, I'm going to tell you this one more frickin' time so you idiots can understand. Look at this from a business standpoint. If you are Apple, where's most of your sales come from? Hardware. The computer, the hardware. You guys. Sometimes you guys are just idiots. You are fucking retarded idiots. And I'm fucking tired of it. And you know what? I am Vicious Dave, and I'll say whatever the fuck I want. Back to the point. Apple. If you are looking at this from a business standpoint, you are not going to set macOS 10 free. Because the software sells the hardware. And you make more money on the hardware. Now, would it be smart to sell the software to other OEMs? No. Because your hardware sales would plummet, and you'd probably go bankrupt. Quickly. So that's why Apple is not going to sell macOS 10 free anytime fucking soon, or ever in their entire time of their business. They're never going to set macOS 10 free. I'm going to say that right now. That's what you guys don't get. That's what Mr. Bit doesn't get. That's what a lot of you guys don't get. So far, the only person off the top of my head that wants to set macOS 10 free is Mr. Bit. That's the only one I know. But you know, I'm going along with Eric on this one. I mean, it wasn't even a fact that I heard about this from Eric and I'm just going along with him. It's that I'm thinking about this on my own. And I'm like, well, yeah, why would you set macOS 10 free? From a business standpoint, Apple would lose millions and millions of dollars because they're not selling any hardware anymore, because everyone else would buy a cheap-ass PC and put OS 10 on it. And that's what you guys need to understand.